Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We got a brand new episode of Marvel Yap today, episode number 21. We're going to be talking about all of the things that happened in 2024 and Marvel Snap Rewind, if you'd like to call that, as well as talking about this entire month of December. Man, what a crazy month we've had. Is it one of the worst months in Snap we've had in a while? But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into it. As always, we're joined with the hostess with the mostest, notmydance. How are we doing today, Dance?
Doing good. Feeling like a great day. It's been a fun time so far, and honestly, I've been having a blast. I don't know, high voltage has been kind of fun. It's been nice to be able to chill out with that. I will say, I've been the sweaty. Have you been the sweaty person, Tucker? Have you been the person running Cosmo and like Red Guardian and such, or what are you doing?
I am playing Mr. Negative with Super Scroll.
Okay, fair. I've been hurt by too many gambit cannons. Have you been gambited? I don't know.
Yes, I've been gambited, but what's really interesting is some of these gambit people are running Cosmo as well, and they'll play Cosmo early, and if I had priority, I play my Super Scroll on top of their Wong lane, and they literally can't do anything.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, the amount of... All right, my favorite card has been, because I'm running Cosmo, but I'm also running Magneto. And a lot of people are also running Cosmo to stop other gambit cannons. But they put a Cosmo, I had it yesterday. They put a Cosmo in one lane. I put my Cosmo in another lane. And so there's only one lane left they can put on reveal cards in. I have priority final turn, Magneto in that final lane to pull their Cosmo in there, and they get literally nothing. It was one of those few times that I always mute right before I start the game because I don't like the emotes in the game. Well, I have all of them, or not all of them still, but I don't like to receive them from others because it's just BM. But it was the one time it was BM because they just did like it was the rocket and group point where it looks all scared and stuff, and it got me dying laughing. My wife looked at me, she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "It's just." they rocket and group pointed at me, and she said, "What?" Didn't really pan over so well, but no, it's been good. How are your holidays? How did all that go for you?
Man, my holidays were pretty solid. When I say also interesting at the same time, so when we moved down to Florida, I was told that every Christmas we have seafood on Christmas, okay, and that we were gonna have a seafood Christmas, and this year we had soup Christmas, and it was the biggest disappointment going into it. There was good soup. It was good soup, and understanding why we had soup Christmas because they had a party over the weekend and they were, still recovering from that, not wanting to go all the way out. And I was like, I totally get it. But my hopes were very high for what I was going to be walking into on Christmas, and I found out that we were having soup, and I was like, yikes. But I did make some freaking awesome zuppa Toscana. So
what is that?
So it is going to be sausage, bacon, kale, minced garlic, onions, and it's like a creamy kind of just soup. Like you can get it at Olive Garden, and I just made it at home, and it was really, really good.
I'm gonna have to try that because wife and I like going to Olive Garden, but I haven't gotten that before. That sounds like a fun one. No, what was it? I had family come in from out of town. Didn't do a lot of streamers. I was trying to focus on them, and it was nice just to be able to go. Hang out with everyone. And it was, I don't know, it's just a really enjoyable time. They also came over later in the week, and it's cool. Something I hadn't seen, my place I live, so it's cool to give a little bit of a showcase, have fun. Stayed up until 2 a.m. playing Phase 10 with them. Didn't win that, but it
was fun, good vibes.
Exactly, my grandma plays a mean Phase 10. I don't know, it's good times. But you know what else has been good times? 2024 for Marvel Snap as a segue. I feel like that was a forced segue, but I'm going with it. What is it? And that's the first topic today. What else are we going to be talking about though before we really break into that though?
So speaking of 2024, we're doing our Snap Rewind, where you may have seen on Twitch, you may have seen it with Spotify, on any other platforms that you rewind the entire year. Dance has methodically written everything out, and it looks incredible top to bottom. The details are fine-tuned, which is why I'm gonna take this moment right here, and you guys need to stop what you're doing, keep listening to the video, but I need you guys to follow notmydance on all platforms right now. My guy right here, my co-host, is absolutely fantastic and puts in work. The effort is innumerous, and he does not get as much credit as he deserves. So I need you guys to stop what you're doing right now. Follow him. Keep the video playing. But our next topic is going to be: did we have a week
till later?
We did we have a weak December, and then we're going to have our 2025 wish list. But starting from the top over here. Of 2024, we started off with the Planet Hulk season, as you see Hulk on screen and with Scar.
Yeah. Scar, so he was a 6'11 at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really just kind of didn't work as a deck, which is we literally had to wait until November until this card really, I felt like saw the light, I think is a good way to put it.
Yes.
But it also came out with a couple of other really good cards in that month. We also had Hercules coming out, as well as Meek.
Hercules is a good card.
He's now a card that's actually being played. I don't know if he's good. I don't want to say that, but he is being played now.
He is being played.
Hercules, Kyra. Kyra was a really fun card. Meek, of course, as you know, who was they were still releasing Series 4, Grandmaster, and then Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
So in general, it was a really fun month of cards, but looking back at that month, other than kinda Kyra, kinda wasn't good. You remember, like, was it Meek didn't even work?
Yeah, Meek was random. Wherever you discard a card, Meek went to a random location. He still got the power for how many cards you discarded, but he only moved one time. But it was completely random, opposed to you being able to move.
And it also only happened at the end of turn, so it didn't work with like Dracula and such, which people, everyone was like, okay, you use with Dracula. I'll be like, no, you actually can't do that.
Nope.
And that was, it was weird. And then we also had Crown City and Great Portal added. Crown City, what is it? What was that location? I can't remember that for the life of me right now.
Is Crown City where you have the adjacent locations get +4?
Is that it? That sounds right. Yeah. As well as what is it? As well as we also had the Great Portal, which is just the one that adds a card that has 10+ power to your hand, which is, it's fine. Yeah, Crown City is whoever's winning here gets +4 power to adjacent locations. Yeah. So
yeah.
Overall, those were fine. It was at least fine. Maybe not great in terms of like in terms of the releases. It was also the very first season. So we started off 2024 with the very first season where a new card launched the same week as the season pass card.
Yes.
Because previously, like the first week of the Spy Caches in like December had just 3 cards that were all pre-existing. At one point, I think I was going to have Firestar, which we still haven't seen, Tucker. We had her. The more time that goes on, that's 2023. I know, but like, she sounded like such a fun card.
Too.
Yeah.
But we did have series drops also for the very beginning of the year.
Yeah, they were pretty impactful series drops as well. What is it? Starting off from dropping from Series 5 to Series 4, we finally had Howard the Duck drop series. Can you, Tucker, when we started 2024, Howard the Duck cost just as many collector's tokens as Thanos.
Yeah, and everyone wanted me to buy Howard the Duck. So on my birthday in 2023, I did buy Howard the Duck for chat because they wanted me to have Howard the Duck. And I'm 6K in debt now because of Howard.
You've been negative 6K tokens for this long.
Yep,
wow,
I'll never financially recover from this.
Never financially. He keeps trying to get more, and then it just somehow never happens. There's just interest that keeps compounding. Is that what it is?
Yep, exactly.
Ghost Spider, Kitty Pryde, Silver Samurai, Echo, Phoenix Force, Hitmonkey, Lady Deathstrike, and Dakin all also dropped at that time. Was it? So, especially compared to like December, a very felt solid. I think people still wanted more, but now like at the end of the year, which is kind of the whole thing of the rewind, right? Looking back at that, I wish the December one was that size, and that's just the Series 5 to 4 stuff.
And they were genuinely like decent cards for the most part. I mean, Ghost Spider, Kitty Pryde, Phoenix Force, Hitmonkey, Lady Deathstrike are some decent. Lady Deathstrike I put with an asterisk because compared to the other ones, it's kind of meh. But like Howard the Duck, yeah.
Sorry, she was also at the time, she was a 5/3 that destroyed cards with less power than her.
Yep.
So she wasn't even, I don't even think she was good.
No, she was bad. Actually, yeah. So I just, no asterisk there. Asterisk would be like now looking at her, but no. Dakin bad, Lady Deathstrike bad. Echo was, of the ones that are like not as great, was kind of okay, but still.
Echo's consistently been okay.
Yeah. Silver Samurai, freaking Howard. But yeah, not great. But the Series 4 to Series 3, I think, also not anything crazy.
Actually, I'm gonna say stature dropping to Series 3 was really good.
That is the only card of that list right there that was genuinely like, okay, this card's viable. Because Negasonic is good, but wasn't really playable in the meta at that point.
No, not really. No.
Yeah.
She just wasn't good.
No.
And I mean, so the meta, right back then, this was. I feel like it was Thanos centric, if I'm not mistaken. This was a Thanos centric meta at the time.
Yep,
There was a lot of that going around.
It was a lot of ongoing Thanos with Miss Marvel as well, because Miss Marvel wasn't limited to having two cards in the locations. It was only had to have one card there, and she was a 4/5 with +5 on the adjacent locations too.
And we still had old Professor X.
Yep.
So there was so much lockdown as well. Like lockdown was a legitimate thing. Annihilus was still a thing, right? We had like old like there were so many cards that we look at now and we're like, yeah, no, those aren't bad. Those are fine. But back then, that was the meta was entirely different, which is also one of the different things that's cool to like look back on all this different stuff, because those decks were kind of like, those were pretty annoying, honestly.
Also, our next point in here is also the first OTA of that. With that in mind, looking at this, at the time, Blob was a 6/4, merge every single card into Blob.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That was such a, I hated that so much. That was such a, God, it was so annoying. I hated that so much. Gosh, but you know, also, what is it? High Evo was still playable then.
Yes.
It was like the She-Hulk High Evo with like Infinite. That was a deck that you were playing a lot, as well as Darkhawk, because again there was so much Thanos, so Darkhawk made sense. We also still had two Zabu. And what is it? Jeff was at least in the meta, right? Jeff hasn't been changed, but I remember back then people were like, maybe Jeff should get changed, but actually like time's
because
gone
of
on
Professor X, and that's like when you're talking about High Evo too, that's why Kyera was a little relevant at the time as well, because she was able to protect your 1-drops and your 6-drops, and that's what High Evo plays a lot of.
Yeah, exactly. So it all worked there. It really felt like that was its own deck. But what is it? Apparently, it was like the very first patch, which I don't think they had tweaked the OTA stuff to be able to do text. I don't remember when that was, and I couldn't find a certain thing on websites, and I wasn't going to go through every single Team Answers post, so I didn't bother. But I think it happened soon into the year when they made the ability to change text in OTAs and not just like a number change or what have you, because Miss Marvel had to get changed in the first patch of the year,
right?
To be, because she previously was a 4/5 that gave +5 power to adjacent locations that you had unique costs at least, as long as there's one cost. And then right at the start of the year, it took November to then it turned into a 4/4 with at least as long as you have 2+ cards with different costs, you get the +5 adjacent. So she got the hit immediately, and I don't think she's really recovered since then.
No, she hasn't recovered. And I think something that we can put perspectively too is when we talk about these patches are a month in advance. So Miss Marvel came out in November. In December, they wrote up the patch for January, which is very interesting when we come and talk about some of these later patches that we'll have in discussion as well, and the changes between an OTA and a patch, which I think when we talk about from the July to December OTA changes, we just want to keep that in mind, is that's the way they have worded everything for us.
I forgot about that. Yeah, because it feels like that was a while, but in actuality, they kind of just locked it in pretty much as, what is it? Like, maybe not, actually about as soon as they could have, right?
Probably,
like, because everything else done about a month in advance. And maybe December could have squeezed it in, but like, yeah. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a good amount of, if I can pull it up over here, I think there was a good amount of Loki as well back in the day. I could be entirely incorrect here.
No, there's a lot of Loki, and they were playing it in Thanos and in Phoenix Force as an alternate, because it was when Loki would actually swap the cards in your hand opposed to your entire deck.
Yeah. That's fair. And then, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I also forgot. Lockjaw
Mm-hmm.
was, what is it? Lockjaw was, what was he? He was like a 3-2, I want to say. I don't think that changed for a bit. But Lockjaw was also like a lot of places because there was also hella Lockjaw in this time as well. But even before hitting all that, they also they not only hit it with a great nerf to Miss Marvel, they immediately hit another pretty significant home run with Quake being pretty much a meme card for a while.
Yep.
Going into, what is it? So originally she was a 2/3, and if she's at the middle location, she swaps all location positions, just kind of shuffles them, and it was random. You didn't get control over it. It was a meme card. No one used it.
Yep.
But then they just said 2/3. Wherever you place this, you swap the other 2 locations positions. And what is it? It's one of again, just such a good dang change. You gotta love that. Also, by the way, I just realized some of the top decks of Thanos were actually running Devil Dino.
Yeah, because it was all ongoing shenanigans.
Yeah, it's wild. And yeah, so Kingpin also used to destroy the cards that moved there on turn 6. It was just on turn 6. And Fisk Tower always destroyed the cards that moved there. And again, in this patch, they removed that ability. And so both of those swapped to giving negative power to cards at that point.
Something to note as well is at this time, Luke Cage was a single lane card opposed to a global effect.
There's so many context points like that are really important in terms of remembering because it made a lot of differences. It made a lot of differences in terms of the way that you interacted and looked at each of those specific cards. Because right now we think like, why these changes don't track at all, but it actually made a lot of sense back then. And then we kind of existed in that place for a bit. Thanos just kind of avoiding getting hit. Really, they kept like tweaking stones, but not really. But it took until what is it? Then we had the OTA where Blob, and I think this was the first one where they were able to change text, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe this is the first one that totally like were able to revamp stuff.
Because Blob originally, like you said earlier, was a 6/4. He saw the ongoing that he can't be moved, but 6/4, you merge your entire deck into him. Then he swapped to that 6/0, merged deck into him until he has 15 plus power. And I remember when I first saw Blob, like I said, Darkhawk was also a pretty good deck at this time. I was over Darkhawk. I didn't like Darkhawk. I was tired of it. And so I heard about Blob, and I'm like, just give me the card that stops Blob, or stops Darkhawk. Which, again, as like a Thanos, he was a great card in Thanos. Which, again, just another buff for that deck. Literally one of the best decks to counter Thanos at the time was Darkhawk. And then Blob released and undid that counter perfectly. It was rough. And then it wasn't as big of a change. It kind of took a while, a slow burn, but that was also when we saw Dagger get the change from being a 2/2 +2 to each card, a 2/0 +3 for each card. Move tried.
They did.
It didn't work.
It didn't have all the pieces until later this year, and now you look at Move, and Move is it's a force of nature. But that is pretty much all of January right there. But we did have a development roadmap in January as well for the new year, which was talking about coming soon, okay? Character mastery, album improvements, in-game events, selectable card effects, selectable borders, new infinity splits, and collectible reactions. Those are coming soon.
Those were the coming. So before we even hit the next ones, that was a January of this year. Character mastery, we do finally have confirmation, is going to be in the February one. There's going to be the February update. Which, by the way, I saw this online. Second Dinner needs to be able to take a W. They could have said, "All right, y'all, we're sorry about the card acquisition stuff. This is going to be launching in February. We're excited about this. Hope you all enjoy it. Here's a little bit of a teaser for what it's going to be like." Instead, they say, "Sorry, we couldn't do it in time, so we're going to push it back to February." Did we know it was in January?
Yeah.
It just feels. It was one of the situations where, like, okay, you could. Someone in your team needs to look over and be like, we can spin it. Like they need a spinner. You know what I mean? Like someone who could just make it seem like it's a little bit better. I don't know. What is it? But anyway, yeah. So all of those, was it character mastery? Didn't happen. Albums improvements. What improvements were they planning on doing there? Was it?
I didn't notice any improvements. I think albums kind of got more and more expensive, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of transitioned those into being like just actively whale hunting, and yeah, we did get in-game events, right? We got Deadpool's Diner, High Evolutionary. It's coming soon, it says, but also those didn't happen until like for a long time. Or maybe it's not even, because actually the spoiler, those actually are talked about in concept. But yeah, we did get eventually the card effects, the borders, new Infinity Splits again, February.
Yep.
And then collectible reactions did at least occur over the year. So the coming soon, I think they started this year with a pretty bad roadmap. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Because in addition to all those, we then talk about the in development stuff, which I think all of that has happened, and some of the coming soon stuff still hasn't happened, right?
Yes, we have clans, which is alliances, which we have at the moment. Collectible borders, we have collectible borders. Booster VATs, I think
those never happened.
Yeah, we never had
died.
booster VATs. Yep.
That's a good question. What happened? So booster VATs, they were, what is it? You were supposed to be able to choose which boosters. It was targeted boosters. That was, what was it? I'm reading right here. Booster VATs will come in sizes from small to Hulk sized, which will award more and more boosters as the booster VAT gets larger. Pick the booster VAT size you want to use. Pick the character you want to target, and complete an objective to crack open the booster VAT and then collect the boosters. I forgot about this feature. That sounds so cool. Where is it?
We have your booster shop. You can actually make it so you have specific cards come in there randomly. You may not get the variant you want every single time. It might take you a week to get the one at the border you want, but that's the best way you can target boosters now.
True. More event types as well. We had login rewards pretty much as added and such.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've had more events of that. I guess maybe leagues we had.
Yes. I guess that would be... Yeah, that's an event.
Yeah. And then obviously the in-game graveyard, we did get that this year. I don't remember when, but it's written down. But at least in general, other than the booster VATs, everything else in development actually occurred. And finally, the actual in-concept stuff, which is stuff that was just like, this is really far out stuff, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, don't really see this a lot here. One of the first, they talk about the new game mode, new game boards, which we finally got a concept art image of, I think last month.
Yeah, it was like very recently.
Yeah. Clan competitions, which we've gotten the clans, we haven't gotten competitions. I do feel like alliances are one of the weaker points. We'll kind of talk about that whenever alliances got added. But Ultimate Variant Evolution, there's not even any details on their page about this. I'm looking. And then last but certainly not least, they talked about the new card mechanics, which I think was Activate probably.
Yes, Activate's the new card mechanic.
So we at least got that. But in general, this is just a really bad roadmap, I think.
Yeah, not great.
I think in the future months, they just don't tell us at all, like, what the, like, they don't give us in concept.
Okay.
I don't think they did that.
No, they just gave us coming soon and in development.
I think that was the most recent one, yeah, and that's so much better. I don't, like, because looking forward and looking at all this cool stuff, I'm like, it's not there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think like I said, I feel like the team needs to work on that. And you know who they worked on up until literally like an hour after the card got added? The next season pass card, Black Swan, in the Black Order season of February. Black Swan season pass card, he had Super Giant, Cole Obsidian, both those releasing as Series 5 cards. Corvus Glaive as a Series 4, and then Proxima Midnight as another Series 5 card. And Black Swan at first was a 2/3 on reveal until the end of your next turn. Your 1-cost cards cost 0. And then an hour after she got added, she was a 3/5 until the end of So like, I think they announced her actually as the 3/5, but then she still released as a 2. It was weird. She was data mined
as a 2/3 for a while, and then she got changed in the developer update for the month at a 3/5, and that's when she was supposed to be a 3/5.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that tracks. No, those were I guess interesting, but also we did have at least we did get Sanctuary 2 and Black Vortex, and again, Infinity Stones didn't buff just Thanos at the time. So when you're looking at that type of stuff, if Sanctuary 2 was actually a really cool location. I liked it. I was like, all right, please don't let me roll. Please don't let me roll the Power Stone. Getting Mind Stone drew 2 1-cost cards at the time.
Yep.
And so it was a lot of stuff like that, which I think was actually like really cool.
Time Stone gave you extra energy and stuff still too. You had the ongoing effect of the Soul Stone. Yeah.
And it also went again. This is the whole thing. Like I said before, we had so much Thanos previously, and then we got season with even more Thanos, and I was just, God, it hurt. It just hurt so heavily. But what is it? Yeah. So Thanos continued to be everywhere. Lockjaw was just a card that was in so many different decks at that point. And yeah, I'm looking at the meta reports from this time, and looks like a lot of Lockjaw and like lockdown stuff with Junk and or with Junk and or just the, like Professor X stuff, because the Professor X still worked away. It was just not enjoyable really. Black Vortex was still a cool location though. It's like that. But we finally had some balance. We had some balance changes, and
they were actually kind of good. I would say they're kind of spread out. Each of them, some of the most notable ones are going to be the OTA on February 1st. It made Luke Cage go from a 2-3 to a 3-4. Originally, when he was in the game, he was an ongoing the entire board at a 2-2. He was entire board couldn't get their power reduced. Now he goes to a 3-4, where cards across the board can't have their powers reduced, from a 2-3, where it was only in that lane your cards couldn't have their power reduced.
And I mean, I think it was good at the time. I think that made sense because we didn't have a lot of affliction stuff. Like this, the best we had was like Man Thing, and Man Thing was a 4-5 and not really that great.
Yep.
And Hazmat obviously, but like we didn't have Ajax, like a payoff for the deck, which really matters a lot. And the whole, it didn't feel like it mattered enough to be. Back then, I think it was fine. Like, I'm saying, because I know I've been on the anti-Luke Cage train as of late. Because looking at it now, what was it? If we had those cards back then, I think it was fine. Where we are today, though, in Marvel Snap, I don't think there's a way that this. What is it? Yeah.
But there were some other good changes too in that OTA
but
as well.
The bad one.
Well,
there were other. What other good changes were in that particular OTA that you?
Hulkbuster went from a 3-5 to a 2-3.
True.
And Ghost went from a 1-2 to a 3-5.
Ghost kind of got played in Supergiant lists a little bit. It was
Sarah
basically just kind of that. Yeah, it was the Sarah Supergiant control list. That was a fun list. I liked that stuff. Those are some cool lists. What is it? I feel like this was one of the times when Black Swan came out. I feel like this is one of the biggest times where we saw like Drac Dump as a style of list.
Yes, that is one of the bigger things. With Lockjaw also helped with that a little bit too. True,
yeah, that's very true. But then unfortunately on the patch, they did something dumb and they started continually whittling down on Beast, and Beast went from a 3-4 to return the cards, at his location back to your hand with -1 cost. He then turned into a 2-2, where he did the same thing, but that -1 cost only lasted till the end of your next turn. Yeah. Started hitting my bounce a little bit. Wasn't a fan of that. I get why. Whenever bounces deserved some nerfs, it's because whenever it becomes meta, that's when it's a problem. But I love it as like a little sneaky thing you can kind of play, because bounce was actually doing pretty solid around the time. So we didn't mention it before, but it was doing pretty good. And then they did. Was it the OTA later on in the month? Was pretty interesting.
It was actually huge for a couple of different reasons.
Adam Warlock. Yes. Adam Warlock. Thank goodness they buffed him. They buffed him from a 2-0 to a 5-4. Are you okay? Sorry, were you looking something up over on the side?
We actually have some good changes besides the Adam Warlock freaking atrocity. But we do also have Darkhawk going from a 4-0 to a 5-4, so he doesn't work with Zabu any more of his time, because Zabu still isn't ongoing.
Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting that, yeah.
And then we also do have Forge going from a 1-1 to a 2-2, so you can't use him on turn 1 for Destroy decks, which is what mainly Destroy was using at the time, and people were getting really upset about that. We have Vulture going from +5 on move to +6 on move. Lockjaw going from a 3-2 to a 4-5. And then America Chavez going from a 2-3 to a 1-2.
Yeah, no, it was good. And also, I think back at that time, Lockjaw also was once per turn as well. So it was a pretty big hit. And I feel like this is the one where where I always think like Hawkeye was a 1/5.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hawkeye was because he's a 1/1 that gives you +3 whenever you play card at his location next turn.
Mm-hmm.
But I always read that and think of it as a 1/1 with a +4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when I got that really messed up, but so many times I think that and I'm like, wait, why don't I get as much power for this card? Doesn't make sense to me. But yes, the OTAs, the patches, all that stuff was good. But the reason I think one of the things that really made this season I feel like so fun is we had an imbalance patch.
Mm-hmm.
First ever imbalance patch where, if y'all don't remember this, it's been a while since then, so I don't blame you. The imbalance patches were basically just giving buffs to certain groups of cards and encouraging you to play other stuff. Especially as we look at some of these other locations that come out, Tuck, so much better than like the hot locations.
Yes.
In terms of encouraging meta diversity.
Yes.
Literally just lets a brand new deck come up, exist for a bit, and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it makes the game feel so fresh. Because it was the power couples where if you had 2 of the same cards on the board, they gave each other an additional power or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Some fun combinations in there like Black Panther Nakia, Gambit Rogue, Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, Star-Lord, Gamora. There were more. What do you think of the imbalance patches at the time?
They were really fun. What's really interesting is like I was entering a tournament at the time that came out, so you had to like think of perspectively. Like people made some interesting decks because you're like, wait, why is Star-Lord Gamora getting played right now? And then it's like, well, with that actually imbalance change, that actually allows you to be able to add that extra power, and it was kind of substantial. Like we talk about 1 and 2 power here and there, but if it's 2 different cards getting +1 power or getting +2 power, that really does add and like stack up. Which is really interesting to think about. Daredevil and She-Hulk was another one that went together, which was really interesting.
Captain America Agent 13 as well. I feel like that one would never play. Like, I like it as so. This is one of the things that I like about the rewind bit because I love that now. Back then, I didn't care for it. I didn't care because it just. I get it. They did it. It was like Iron Man and Rescue. You're not playing those cards together, but you get a benefit for it, and I just didn't care enough about that to do it, which is unfortunate. But like I don't know. So looking back at that, I was like, I just played the same deck.
Yep.
And as much as present day me looks back at that and says, I wish they would do more of those. Back then, I was like,
yeah,
I can play my same stuff. I don't need to. But I liked that. I like that more still. I feel like looking back on it, it just feels better and better. Maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but it's not just because it was power couples, okay, or Valentine's Day time.
You only know you're in the good moments when you're out of the good moments.
The Office. Perfect. But thankfully, what is it? It was after. You know what they say? All's fair in love, and also war. As the next season was Avengers versus X-Men.
And we got
I need props
beautiful,
for some of these segues.
Beautiful Hope Summers over here was the season pass card, as well as 4 Series 5 cards. We had Pixie, Mockingbird, Cannonball, and we had War Machine when War Machine was still an on-reveal War Machine.
Yeah. Mockingbird was a 5/9. Cannonball worked with Professor X, or like you could shut down locations with Professor X. This location or this like month had a lot of really good cards.
Yes.
And what was it? I'm continually proving wrong that I feel like Hope Summers was a problem, but no.
Well, she was data mined as a problem. She was data mined to give you +2 energy next turn. Yeah.
And what was it? I love the fact that she has stayed the same. I said repeatedly, I cannot tell you how many times I said that this card needed to get nerfed.
You told me that a lot.
And I was so wrong. And I'm so happy about that. Like this card's good. It's a good card. I want the good cards to at least feel impactful. That's how the meta changed, how the game feels fresh, because basically every single card is a content update, kinda.
Yes.
There's new content added to the game every time a new card is added. So if it feels impactful, if the new card is interesting, it's cool to do. But then we also had some other locations. Krakoa. And I believe it wasn't the Krakoa that wasn't fun. I think that was the correct Krakoa. The one that was it? There was a version of Krakoa where it controlled the cards you played for a turn, on turn 5. And I don't believe it was this one.
Yeah, I don't know when they changed the location from being one of the worst locations ever invented to
Milano was worse.
Milano.
So the Milano was I think that was like Guardians of the Galaxy season.
Mm-hmm.
You can only play cards there turn 5.
Oh yeah, that was bad. Same with was it Castle Bridge or whatever?
Yeah, there's like a castle. I want to say Blackstone. I don't think it's correct, but like something like that where it was just
only 6 drops.
Yeah, just so. It was not fun. But I'm very glad that at least that the cards were a lot better. We also or the location were a lot better. And then Utopia, if I'm not mistaken, that gives you your -3 and 4 cost cards.
Yes.
-1 cost. If I'm not mistaken.
It's like a Sarah for 3s and 4s.
I love that location. That's just such a good location. Again, talk about locations that are definitely not that. That one's a good one.
We also had the graveyard actually did get added in March, which was in development in the roadmap for January. So we actually did get that in. We had another huge change where you could undo your turn. Finally.
Oh, do you remember how difficult that was?
Yes.
I hated playing on my phone, Tucker. I hated it because I'm sitting there and it's just like the little thing where like your thumb just kind of like hits the screen right there, and that was it. And the amount of times I would do that and look, and I rage quit the app so many times just because of that. Because I was just like, I screwed myself here by holding my phone.
Yep.
It's such a good thing. They also added the custom cards, which you get. I think. I didn't know this. You don't get custom cards until you've done at least 3 different Infinity Splits, and then you unlock the ability to get them forever. But like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I read this when I was writing all this down. Custom cards. So it's basically what you have right now, where you can do the whatever effect you would like to do with whatever border. And we didn't have custom boards yet, so we didn't have like the neon stuff yet. But you could, you were allowed to. You don't get custom cards until you have 3 different Infinity Splits on just in general in your card collection.
Gotcha.
Then you unlock custom cards for the rest of your Infinities for every single card that gets an Infinity Split in the future. I didn't know that was I didn't know that's how it worked.
I didn't either.
As someone who had already many Infinity Splits beforehand, didn't know that. Also, they added Gold Pass, another way to spend money, which actually is the second best way to probably spend money in the game if you ever do that.
After the season pass.
Yep, exactly. But other than obviously all the stuff you can spend money on, they did actually do some pretty interesting balance changes during this month. They tried, Tucker. They tried some interesting things, and they walked a lot of them back. They brought some back as well. Leech.
Gosh.
So Leech.
My gosh.
What was it? If I'm not, make sure I have this correct. Leech basically was a 5/2 that said at the start of turn 6, erase the card text. All the cards from the all of the text is gone from your cards. And then they changed it to, 5/3. And then they changed him to be remove the text from each card with an on reveal ability. Then in your hand. They didn't know what they didn't know a can of worms they opened there.
Nope.
We'll talk. Well, Leech is gonna come back a few times in this like rewind, Tucker.
Leech was my most hated card before
Erishim
in 2024.
Honestly, fair.
So
I'm not gonna say how I feel about him until later, but yes, it was atrocious. They gave him Baku the buff, right? They let him jump to the weakest location.
Yep.
Thank goodness. I still remember, and it's not this season, it's future, when there was a symbiote Spider-Man M'Baku deck that like buffed him as high as possible, then merged him with M'Baku, and then M'Baku would go back in the deck with like Lockjaw stuff, and then it would come back out of it. Like it was, I remember that. Anyway, fun stuff. Yondu got prepared for
Baron
Zemo because he originally said the top card of your opponent's deck, then he changed it to cheapest. No one really understood that. And Elsa, after being gutted she was the only other card that was actually nerfed mid-season.
Yep.
We'll see the next one, future stuff. Was a 2/3, and then after you play your cards, she gets a plus. She gave the card +2 power if the location was full. Then change that to each card you play to fill your side of location gains +2 power. Which I want them to use the text that they did with Galactic, where it says reveals with +2 power. That's one of the things I would love if they changed soonish with this. But yeah, so they brought those back, and that until the OTA occurred that month, did an interesting change.
You love your Guardians.
Yeah, the Guardians, they each got like different amounts of power each time. Whatever, like a card was played, whenever you play a card at their location, and then every single one of them changed to getting +4.
Yep. They're so good with +4. I love it. I play so much Guardians.
Have you played any of the Guardians of the Galaxy in 2024?
In 2024, I played them maybe a handful of times.
I played Rocket. Never mind, Rocket.
Rocket, you bounce Rocket, and that was an alternate inserter slam. So there was that, but overall, no.
That deck, other than Rocket, needs. I think all of them need to go +5. Just saying. I've said it before.
Even Rocket.
That's where we are. No, Rocket goes to 1/0 +5.
Okay.
If they want to do everything being the same, sure, 1/0. He's fine at 5. Makes him slightly good in bounce, but we'll see. I don't know if it's too good. I get to all the choices. It's fine. And then we had the final imbalance patch we ever would have. Didn't know it was the last one. Avengers versus X-Men. So locations with the 3 Avengers, with where you had at least 3 Avengers, you got +3 power at that location. And then once there were 4 X-Men in play, every single X-Men got +1 power. This one I actually did some stuff with. This one I remember playing with. I liked this one. Maybe it's the fact that like the imbalance patch design space was so narrow that they didn't do it a lot.
The card pool still was fairly generous though when it came to X-Men and Avengers opposed to the Lovers, because of course, but like, and of course with that in mind, that's why you had the criteria you had to hit to get the +1 opposed to just playing 2 cards. But that was really fun. It's like, okay, well, I'm winning this location, and then it's like, boom, I'm throwing down a Captain America and like a Thor and something, and then I'm actually stealing this lane. You're like, wait, what? What just happened to me?
No, because you got like the Captain America, and then it was Captain America, Iron Man. Like there was some actually cool ongoing lists. I remember that's what I played. I had a lot of fun with that stuff. Also doing some bounce things. I remember I tried to do some bounce stuff as well, because that was pretty cool too. There was just a lot of really fun stuff in that. Unfortunately, though, that was our final actual imbalance patch. We didn't know at the time.
Yep.
But that led straight into the April season of the Thunderbolts, which is actually finally coming out in 2025. I feel like was it at one point like supposed to be in 2024 and then just got delayed because like COVID and stuff? Is that what it was?
Yeah, the Thunderbolts was supposed to come out like last May, but they delayed it to, put more time into it, which it looks pretty solid. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
I think I heard it's like the #1. No, Captain America is. It's like one of the top like 5 most anticipated movies just from like general consensus apparently.
Over Fantastic Four?
Yeah, Fantastic Four is actually kind of low. Or is it? No, maybe it's inverse. Maybe it's like they're next to each other. I think I remember.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll say that, and I could be entirely wrong here. What was it? Yeah. So we start with Baron Zemo, obviously one of your favorites. He got that mill list. That was a lot of fun. With Red Hulk, who he was dominant for a while. We didn't really talk about the meta as much in March, but it was honestly I don't think it was the worst. It's still Thanos. It didn't really change much. I don't think. Red Hulk though came out and that changed a lot of stuff. U.S. Agent, I want to say he was still a 2/3 -3 instead of -4.
Yes.
Said he was good. Said he was good before, and it was proven even better as soon as they made him a -4.
Look at him now.
Yeah, exactly. Red Guardian came out, which again just added a whole other level of like, what is it?
Counter
Another level of this like counter tech. White Widow and Valentina. I think this is the month where Luke Cage started becoming a problem. Look at the cards that we had there. Red Guardian, U.S. Agent, White Widow, Valentina. All of a sudden, in a world that we really have so few cards that mess with the negative power, all of a sudden we just got 4 new cards that did that. And it was a lot.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. It was a nice setup also for like later months too, which we'll talk about, with like Ajax and stuff. But we had Thunderbolt's Tower as one of the new locations, which afflicts -2 power to cards on both sides of this location. Castle Zemo was very interesting. Prashana and
Castle
Flash
Zemo?
know about that.
Wait, what happened with them? Sorry, yeah.
They were in a tournament together, and Pershawn Scarlet Witched the location that turned into Castle Zemo, and Flash got his card and won the game.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Castle Zemo is the location that made me decide that I don't like hot locations. I don't think I ever pushed as high on a single day without Castle. Like what is it? It was a Mr. Negative Havoc deck that I just remember. It's so dumb. I don't know. What is it? At the very minimum, there are actually a couple patches this month. We also, we added emotes that you could actually buy with the shop into the shop.
Yep.
I think we already had albums beforehand. I remember the fast upgrade section in the shop. Everyone never used this section. That was like one of the biggest things you have to tell people as soon as they jump into the game. Then it's just like, hey, what if it's just free boosters instead? Maybe there was an announcement around then that they said booster bats are being removed and we're doing this instead. Maybe, I don't remember. They also had some reactions, or at least like, I think the framework for them, maybe it was the first album with reactions, and and then later on we actually got some of these custom card borders, which I don't think actually had Blue Cosmic. I think that one was like missing for a bit because it was like glitched.
Yeah, Blue Cosmic was out for a little while, and then I don't know if it was breaking people's game or whatever, but then they just removed it for months.
Yeah, it was wild. And then other than like a bunch of balance changes, we'll say, it's when we started working together.
Shout out to notmydance with all these amazing thumbnails.
I remember watching your videos, and I just remember, it's all the love meant, Tucker. I remember watching some of your videos and being like, I didn't care about the thumbnail. It just, it's part of the reason why I'm so like just
picky.
Really particular about so much random stuff. Picky, honestly, yeah. And I remember I was like, hey, I made this. Would you use it instead? You're like, yeah. And then I remember you did do you remember like it was like a few days later, you uploaded another video and it was a Galactus video.
Yep.
It wasn't Galactus.
It was the What If Ultron vision with Infinity Stones. And
that's how I wore you down into becoming working with me. I don't know. We were already friends, but then we got that bit. Anyway, it was fun.
Now look at us now.
Look at us now. What's the thing from Hot Ones? Look at us. Look how far we.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And then this is where they finally started hitting Thanos. And what is it? I don't have every single detail in this bit, but the OTA hit Thanos. Started hitting Thanos pretty hard and forcing the stones to be like really focused on him.
Yeah, this entire OTA was actually crazy.
True. There was a lot of crazy stuff. What is it? So it started off with Thanos, where he now started in your hand as one of the 6 cards. Or sorry, 3 cards in your hand, as well as the Time Stone no longer just gave a -1 cost card or like plus energy that they used to do even before then. Crossbones finally I remember when what was it? When Cull Obsidian came out, we're like, Cull Obsidian versus Crossbones, is it really like they're that different, that difficult? But Crossbones got to a 410, which just, whether it's power creep, I don't even think Crossbones was played that much even early on. I feel like it was just like, I think it just needed to be better. Angela, this is part of the bounce problem. Angela got buffed. I loved it, but it was a problem where Angela got buffed she was a 2/2 with a +1 after a card was played here. We had 2/0 +2 after a card was played here. Regularly ending games with 24 power at Angela.
Yeah, that Angela getting +2 again was disgusting.
Yeah. It also hit your Meek a little bit because Meek was just a bit too good. They tried to do some stuff with Sabretooth.
Gosh.
Didn't matter.
Freaking Sabretooth. Good gravy.
I know. But then the patch that they had following did a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah. That's when we started to pour one out for the big cat. We had to pour one out for Zabu, but Zabu took a bullet for a bunch of these other cards that actually dramatically improved, whereas Eliath was literally the bane of people's existence, where it literally would just destroy unrevealed cards, and literally was a fight for priority. Now it was a race to text of unrevealed cards, which still is very oppressive to this day, but I think it's still better than the destroy aspect of the card itself. Sandman also went from ongoing to on reveal. Strong Guy went from one or fewer cards instead of having to have an empty hand to give you the +6.
That was such a big change.
Made him actually playable, and he's actually still playable to this day.
It was so good.
And then US Agent went to the -4 power ongoing for 4, 5, and 6 cost cards.
Yeah. Also, I think we had the Lady Deathstrike as well. I didn't write this, but Lady Deathstrike also, because they even said, I remember this, they were like, we wanted to exist in this world where you could do the 4 and the 3, and it's just like, we can't. The card can't work at this power. It always gets rid of the cards with 3 or less, and it was just like, yeah. Like, good on you for taking that.
Even though I love Lady Deathstrike.
She was so much fun. I remember that. But but then it was a really jam-packed month. We kind of went to a month that like didn't have any like big announcement stuff. Other than the fact that we started getting balanced. OTA started getting leaked, Tucker.
Yes.
This is where Second Dinner had like a major leak. I don't remember. I feel like it was everywhere. As soon as I remember, like a content creator showed the notes on stream, plug that hole up. Okay, someone at the URL for the balance changes is now just you can brute force it. Oh, plug that hole up. Oh, you didn't even plug that hole correctly. People just RNG'd the random 4 letters that you put. So it just felt like this was the start of the leaks.
Yes.
It was summertime, so maybe it's time to get a little bit wet, right? It's May, but with Blink as the season pass card.
Yep.
What is it? And she hasn't been changed since then. Nocturne was a 3/5 at the time. Then we also had Sage coming in. Sage hasn't changed. Namora hasn't changed, and neither has Sasquatch. All those were Series 5 cards.
Yep, and they were honestly decent. Namora, we were like, what are you going to do with Namora? Then Safety Blade made an amazing Namora deck that went rampant, and Namora started to do some Wong going stuff. It's like we were back in Series 2 again. We had White Tigers, we had Wongs, and then we go back to Series 3, of course, and you got Dr. Dooms. You got all of that going around. Sage was incredible from start to finish. Like, she has been a solid card since then. Hasn't been changed at all. Nocturne has been changed since then.
And Wolfsbane still exists.
Yeah,
sorry. Just wanted to point that out.
Wolfsbane is just...
If you're going to pour one out.
Pouring out for Wolfsbane, 100% there. And then we had 2 new locations in Cancun and Panopticon. That's how you...
I call it Panopticon. I don't know if that's correct, but I call it that.
I'm not good at pronouncing things, so we're just gonna say that. Yeah.
Whatever. I actually like both these locations. I didn't really mind either one that much. Panopticon I liked less as soon as Airshim came out. And Cancun is another one that's like that one you just don't play. The amount Legion was such a oppressive card that day. It was just like, cool. I played for 3 minutes and nothing happened. I got 6 boosters for this game. I hated it. But we also saw some really big changes start to occur. What is it? I feel like one of the biggest ones that I remember was the drones. Ultron's drones went from 1/1s to 1/2s. All of a sudden making Ultron an actual playable card again, because kind of just forgotten.
Same with Claw. Claw actually became playable once more from the +6 to a +8, which Claw already was like a quote-unquote 5/10, but using it now he's like a 5/12. It just felt like it actually made a pretty huge impact on the card itself.
And Leech, they tried to... I find this funny. If I write, so you can't see the outline. We actually wrote an outline for this whole thing. You can't see the outline, but the OTA on the 9th of May brought Leech from a 5/3 all the way down to a 4/2.
No.
2 weeks later, on the 23rd, another OTA immediately brought him back up. They just wanted the card to be played more, sure.
They forgot that it was the blink season, where they literally, you just play Leech and you blink out Leech and you just get value. Like that's the main thing.
Yeah, God. But that OTA was also another really good one. We got to see Captain America getting to be a 3, going from a 3/3 +1 to other cards, 3/2 +2 to... It's not good now.
Yes.
But I believe when this happened, there was a bit of a, what was it called? Like the Spectrum cheap cards deck.
Yes.
That was a really fun one, because they also buffed Spectrum. I think that's the same OTA. A lot of fun there. Werewolf by Night got buffed again because it was really impressive at like a 3-3, brought it back down to a 3-1. And then we were seeing a lot of Clog, a lot of like...
It was a lot of Annihilus mirrors.
A lot of Annihilus mirrors. There was a lot of bounce as well that we were still seeing in the meta. Hela was still in the still going around. Move was kind of coming around with Nocturne. But we Sentry and Void both lost a couple points of power, bringing them both from a 4-10, 4-10, 4-8 to 4-8. Other than that,
Lady Deathstrike also got nerfed from a 4-7 or a 5-7 to a 5-6 here because people were using that as an alternate for Annihilus in those same packages.
I forgot about that. Oh God, yeah, that was a good, honestly, solid change. It wasn't nothing really crazy, but we had the Gilgamesh season had a lot of spicy stuff in there.
Oh, the Gilgamesh season was actually when we had our next series drop. Woohoo! But before we talk about that, we have Gilgamesh, Athena, Cersei, Makari, Phastos, and Arishem. Freaking Arishem. Which, honestly, if you look at the season from, like, where it is to where it is now, like, Gilgamesh still playable, Athena still playable, Cersei still playable, Makari playable, Phastos playable, Arishem...
Actually, I think Festus has matured the best out of all those.
Out of all these cards?
Out of all of these cards, I think Festus right now is the most playable. Festus, Phastos, whatever. I'm seeing him being played in like the new Thanos list. I'm seeing him being played. We're seeing more hand buff, which doesn't really get added as like a deck type until like a month or so.
As of December, yes, I would agree. Phastos is
as of December. Yes, that's something mature, right? That's why it's like, yeah.
Yes.
You can say yes again for me.
No.
But whoa, I actually really liked the World Forge and Eternals arc, two different locations that they added this. Yes.
Yes.
Two locations that they added this month. I really thought those were both fun locations. An interesting way to do the lockout with Eternals arc, in addition to World Forge just being a wild kind of location, was interesting. But the series drops very middling.
Yes. The series drops. Jean Grey went from Series 5 to Series 4. Selene, Hercules, Nebula, Silk, Living Tribunal Gladiator all went from Series 5 to Series 4. And then Howard the Duck, Silver Samurai, Mirage, Echo, and Martyr all dropped from Series 4 to Series 3. It took them 5 months to drop Howard from Series 4 to Series 3 instead of just insta-dropping him to Series 3. Kind of crazy.
It's nice though, at least that we did see like Nebula, Living Tribunal, and Gladiator all drop to Series 4. Those are some cards that I feel like they're like not archetype defined. They're pretty archetype defining. They're just very good cards that it was just good to at least see them get brought down. Why in the world Selene was up there is a different question entirely.
Yep.
But we also had we had a fun thing where what is it? We had the Gambit that was made by an artist that was a whole thing. I wrote it down because I wanted to, as we're rewinding, like the notable moments.
Yes.
The conversation that was had around that, because there was a Gambit that had art from an artist that Marvel Snap didn't want to use, like Marvel no longer used, but Marvel Snap has access to all of Marvel's art, so they could use it. But then they realized it was something they didn't want to associate with. Place that whole debacle in terms of like everyone complaining because it was a $100 bundle that you paid for or whatever. In the end, it was a whole thing, but 8,000 extra gold to all. Did you? Because you got that gold too, right?
You pretty much got like $200 worth of resources for $100.
16,000 gold, 8,000 credits, and 2 different variants there. It's wild.
That gold's gone already.
Honestly, but this was a big patch as well because Thanos was gutted.
Yes.
They kind of hit him a little before, but then they said, listen, he's going to be focused on Thanos now. He had been oppressive, at least a good deck up until this point.
Yep.
Completely different. And they also had to remove Sanctuary 2, which was such a fun location. Thanos removing, Mind Stone used to draw 2 1-cost cards and then only draw 2 stones. Reality Stone lost its drawing card. Soul Stone doesn't give. Remember when Soul Stone gave enemy cards here -1 power?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Instead, it just stopped. Now it stops Thanos from being discarded or destroyed. Space Stone. Then it used to let you move a card to this location. There was also a world, remember, when you used to move from its location. Best lockjaw card. Nothing can stop you from playing or moving Thanos. And then Time Stone at least got a buff where it just gave Thanos at least -1 permacost. It was a wild thing, including if we're talking about other wild changes this month, Tucker. this was the month for it.
Yeah, if we look at these balance changes, we actually had even though it's only a good handful of cards, they were a substantial handful of changes in the OTA, where Professor X went from a 5/1 lock this location to a 5/2 only movement can add or remove cards in this location or in here. Also, pour one out for the Ebony Blade, going from can't have its power reduced or destroyed to only can't be destroyed. So it was a very, very sad day for me and Black Knight. Red Hulk went from a 6/9 +4 energy if your opponent has unspent to a 6/10 +3 if your opponent has unspent energy, which is, I think, a very valid change. Gilgamesh got buffed within the first week of his release, or maybe week and a half, from a 5/7 to a 5/9.
This was like one of the quickest buffs to I think this was the quickest buff to a season pass card. We've had quicker buffs, I think, but like that was such a fast change.
Another huge change is going to be Hela went from resurrecting your cards just normally to having them afflicted with -2 power when they are resurrected as well. And then notmydance's favorite card, Stegron, also got a buff, going from a 4/6 move enemy card away to a 4/7 move an enemy card to the right. So a targeted move for the Steggy boy.
Yeah, didn't really care about like a lot of these. Stegron, I felt like it felt very minuscule at the time because of how big and impactful the other changes were at this OTA. But those like the Professor X, like Cannonball also lost a point as well at this time. We also saw, like, as Gilgamesh started getting added, no one used Shanna. Shanna got a couple points as well. Captain America also got some love, but yeah, still sucks. Probably won't, hopefully, in a couple months, but that's a different conversation. In general, this felt like one of the best, like, OTAs I remember feeling, because there was so much just actual, like, impactful changes here. Yes. And then we had another one later in the month. Wasn't really that crazy. Angela, like I said earlier, got brought back down. She was a 2. She was before a 2/2 +1. They buffed her to a 2/0 +2. Then she had to get buffed right back down to being a 2/3 +1.
Because it was crazy.
Where I think she sat pretty carefully at. Maybe she's lost points since there. I don't remember. Hercules, I remember they buffed him once in one of these that we skipped past, and everyone's like, okay, just bring him to a 3 cost. He's not working. And they're like, no, we just want to test. We want to test. Okay, well, let's bring him down to 3 cost. And they finally did that. And Kingpin went to a 1 cost, which we're starting to see hints of the Scream, like, of the actual move Affliction deck being playable, which was cool to see. But
also, we do have Eliath getting 10 power now, Miles going to a 4/6, and then High Evo going to a 4/6 as well. So some decent 1 power changes that actually did have an impact later on in the meta as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, High Evo, other than that, like, I don't think that.
Yeah, no.
That just didn't matter.
The Miles and Eliath change, though, did.
Those definitely did matter a lot. But also we had the roadmap. This is the development roadmap, the second one of the year, where they talked about a lot of really fun stuff. The coming soon information was about Deadpool Steiner. And this is one of the things that I feel like we forgot about. Tucker, how long did it take for you to open a collector's reserve?
Oh my word. At least 30 seconds to a minute to open a reserve.
I counted it. I made a point to. The longest was 17 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a mobile. I can poop faster than that, Tucker. Sorry. Anyway, technical performance, they said that at least they were working on it finally. So, and that took so dang long.
Yes.
And then some more improvements to custom cards. Didn't really see a lot of, I guess, just kind of like a couple more borders and stuff, but like it wasn't really super crazy. And then they talked about how the Alliance were in development. They told us when they'd be announced. We'll talk about that whenever we get there. The new card mechanic, which we did have data mine to be activated again. Leagues, which we'll talk about whenever that happens. As well as multiple Infinity Splits, which we still don't have. Apparently, we're going to be around February. And then in concept, card acquisition improvements, Tucker.
In July. In June. Yeah.
First heard about that. And to be fair, we don't have either of the other 2 things here in this in concept section, draft mode and the actual, like, alliance competition thing. But yeah, this is one where I feel like this is not, again, I just think the in concept is not something to show.
Yeah, no.
Give us I'd say in development, if 6 months out, I think it's like farthest they should be telling us this stuff. Because otherwise, it's like, it's cool, yes. But it's just, yeah. I don't know. Also, it bothered me, the new card mechanic. They literally just the eye emoji. Do you remember that? Just like the eye emoji? Yeah. That was it. And this was also around time we had like, there was an IGN announcement, like, where there's a big IGN announcement, make sure you're streaming it or something like that, or like show this off. And they get there and it's just like, it's just like a promo video.
It's a joke.
That I feel like that's when we really started getting like, I feel like this is around the time where it started feeling more and more negative toward, like this is a bit, I don't think Marvel Snap is falling. It's still doing really well. But this is the beginning of like the downhill like slide. The beginning of the slide.
Yes, the decline.
Decline. But I will say the following month, pretty fun. And honestly, if we're talking about like new cards being good content pieces, pretty good. Gwenpool being another really solid card. Again, a 4/12 technically, 4/6 that gives +2 power to 300 cards in your hand. Also had Hydra Bob come out the same week. He was a 1/4. Pushed Infinity with him at a 1/4, and then got buffed like a week following. And they at least started telling us, right? Because they said like, hey, he's gonna get buffed, and they told us that with like 1 or 2 hours left.
Gosh.
And then Ajax also came out. Do you remember everyone talking about Ajax and saying that he was gonna be a garbage card?
Yep. And they were wrong.
Copycat and Cassandra Nova as the first Deadpool's Diner card. Arishem being the last card of the previous month, and then Cassandra Nova being at the end of this month with Deadpool's Diner, made these few weeks in the middle really hurt.
Because all Deadpool's Diner was full of Arishem, and it literally was the worst. Granted, we did have some high notes when people started win trading in Deadpool's Diner to help people be able to get Cassandra Nova, and we kind of came together as a community there. That felt great. But other than that, it was just the worst.
Yeah, it was. That was cool. There was at least some cool stuff there. What is it? It just, I don't know. Those were whatever. I will say the locations. I didn't mind these. There are some locations that have been really bad. Taco Truck and Weapon X Facility. I don't like it when my card gets discarded, but I get to draw another card. Okay,
it's a win, and it happens before the draw on that turn as well. So you actually draw like 2 cards on that turn.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like you draw 2 cards. Maybe you weren't even planning on using that card. I don't know. In general, those were fun. Let's not forget, because one of the changes that happened in the OTA on July 18th, Tucker, you remember the with Arishem, because he only drew, I think he still absorbed like 15 power. Arishem, Mystique, Absorbing Man.
Gosh, Blob, Mystique, Absorbing Man with all that, like, was the absolute worst. And like, it was good, and it's something we had thought about and everything too, but like, second was like, maybe that should not be a thing. And they finally took away their ongoing immovable ability, which made it so Mystique could not copy Blob anymore.
Yeah, because they a while ago they fixed it. So if you didn't remember this, it used to be a thing where like Mystique wouldn't do the on-reveal abilities or something like that or Rogue wouldn't do that. They fixed that. Remember Rogue being a counter tech for Blob?
Yep. To steal his ongoing so she could absorb your deck.
Yeah. As we're now past Blob a lot further, I said it then, and I still say it now. I didn't hate the change to this, because I know a lot of people were like, okay, you're just going to remove the flavor. Like, Blob's whole thing is like, he can't be moved. That's his whole thing. I get that. It's just not an interesting card. We already have Colossus in the game.
Yes. We don't need another Colossus. And Colossus, I mean, Blob, of course, gets way more play time than Colossus does now, even though Colossus still doesn't get good play time. But yeah, no, I don't think we need another kind of just boring kind of thing there.
Yeah, they also did a really big change to Viper, where Viper made it so the lowest power card there swaps sides from the board. They keep giving Sauron points of power.
Yep.
What is it? Werewolf and Hitmonkey finally got a little bit of love, and we also saw Mockingbird go to a 6/10. And Lockjaw lost its once per turn restriction, and lost a point of power as well. Which maybe we thought was, yeah, it's fine. It's honestly like, I think we'll see later on. He got that power point back. And other than that, I don't really think there were other really notable OTA things happening that month, other than the fact that at the what is it? We did see Moon Knight at the end of the month get the what is it? He hit even cost cards, and Shadow King worked through Luke Cage.
Gosh, Shadow King just getting eternally better and better and better.
I don't like. I've said it before on the app. I don't like how prevalent Shang-Chi is. And Second Dinner has said they don't mind it. Sure, but then they looked at Shang-Chi and said, "What if we had 2 cards that were just as prevalent? Let's just keep giving some love to Shadow King. People should be playing him more."
Yep.
Stop. Not to mention, yeah, like I said, Devil's Diner did come out. There was Wind Trading. It was fun times. Really felt like a slog though. They had to fix that, like the first plate and stuff like that. There would be things where people were like,
in the
okay.
second one. But, sorry.
They did. Well, they did. No, it was the same in the second one. Or what?
Second one wasn't. The first one was free in the first one. The second one was never free.
I don't remember, but honestly, I don't. I feel like you're incorrect, but whatever. It's a yeah, whatever it is. The first, they also had it. Remember, people would. Do you remember that people would retreat you? Just retreat, and because they didn't want to play against you, because they only want to play against bots, because bots would give you an automatic win.
Yep.
Yeah, that was what was it? God, that was annoying. Speaking of annoying, alliances got added.
You think alliances are annoying?
All right, well, alliances got added. They haven't really changed much. They've tweaked the missions a little bit. I think alliances were a massive miss.
They could have been way better. I do agree.
I think there's a lot of things that I really don't. Simple stuff where it's like, cool, it's a community. There's. I wish there was like at least like a notification if someone like sent a message. Maybe give me that. Remember the patch and the annoying little like there was a notification bug in the little inbox for forever. Just give us that if someone sends a message. Let us know there's a conversation. Encourage player with player communications. Give us a way to friendly battle inside of our alliance.
Yep.
So many little things like that feel like they should get given more love. And then also this also again, if we're talking about the decline, it made so much of Marvel Snap start to feel like chores. Because if I'm trying to, especially as the very first bit come out, everyone's like, okay, join my, I promise I'll, please sir, let me join your alliance. I promise 5,000 points a week, my liege. Please, I swear. Oh, we have 6,000 points players, you fool. Stuff like, it's just like, God, it made it feel like such a big thing around just that bit. And it's just like, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
I know you have like 5 alliances, so I'm saying this to probably the wrong person here.
I like the concept of, community coming together, we're doing missions and stuff, but I definitely feel like they could have added more stuff to feel like it was more of a community, because I still feel like at the end of the day, there are just a lot of people carrying alliances right now. I mean, I have a lot of people in my alliance that carry my alliance because I'm not playing as much Snap at the moment. So, like, it's definitely, I wish there was better rewards for those who put more effort in after hitting certain criteria. But I just...
Yeah, but I feel like that, I don't know, like you said earlier, it really makes it feel extremely focused on individual players and not like a community thing, which is what everyone was excited about. But also Loki was a thing.
Loki was a thing until we got to the very next season, Young Avengers, where we had Kate Bishop as the brand new season pass card.
True. That was it? Yeah, that happened at the beginning of the next month. We did have Kate Bishop. They made this change to Loki before she technically came out. I'm going to say that first, because everyone's saying like one of the really cool synergies with Loki, because he used to transform your hand with cards that started in your opponent's deck at a -1 cost. They changed that to being replacing your deck with the opponent's starting deck, which is another big issue. We'll get into that.
Yep.
And also he drew a card, but they changed it because they didn't want Kate Bishop to be a Loki card. One of the reasons. But Kate Bishop was really sick there. We had Kate Bishop starting at season off, along with Marvel, who came out at the same time, Wiccan, Speed, and then Hulkling also came out at the end of the month.
Freaking Hulkling. Just talk about a freaking bad card. He had good old Hulkling.
I've seen people playing it recently. I don't know if it's copium or not.
I think the stat line's good. High voltage is fun. You can play Hulkling in high voltage without having to worry about your win-loss. Like, that's enjoyable. But, oh, man. Destroyed Mansion was okay. was an interesting
I don't
concept.
actually, I hate that location so much. As someone who tries to play, actually, I really started hating it last season when I tried playing your Moon Girl Surtur deck.
Yeah.
Stop putting cards in my hand. Let me get my own cards.
Yes.
Stop
That's
it.
painful.
Especially with like bounce stuff in general. Now not only do I have a rock clogging my board, I also have now a vibranium, which is just rock, fancy rock in my hand.
Fancy rock.
It's just fancy rock. Vibranium is fancy rock. That's it.
Oh my goodness. Clubhouse also was added, which Clubhouse was a cool concept. You know, you fill this location here, and then your other cards on the board get +1 power.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was another fun one. We also, what is it? Those were fun. Those OTAs. We also, like I said, we had Loki hit. We also then saw Leech get changed to a point that he's actually pretty okay right now, right?
Yes.
I think.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah. Where I feel like he got changed to again, he was a 5/5 where he erased just all the the text of all the unrevealed cards from your opponent's hand to a 4/4 where he erased the 6-cost cards text from your opponent's hand, which was actually a kind of cool change.
Way better than any of the other changes before, because this card is just a freaking menace. You hate to see it. And then, of course, even more such menacing was good old Doc Ock. Doc Ock was an absolute problem in a lot of Erisham lists and a lot of mill lists. He used to drag all 4 or up to 4 opponent cards onto his location to clog that location, and then he changed to a 4/8 pull the weakest opponent card from their hand into this location.
Yeah. No, that was what is it? I feel like we see this a few times, and we saw it earlier with like Sandman and stuff, and I think we see it again. 5-cost cards that are annoying. They are not good for the game.
Yes.
Leech was also nerfed partially because of Erisham. We also saw that with we saw it obviously here with Doc Ock. It's these cards that are just really they shut down the game for people.
The Fun Police.
Exactly, Fun Police. And there's like a whole release valve argument. And Second Inner has shown that we can have release valves, but then also not ruin the game for others.
Yes.
I will say, I did miss the fact that Doc Ock, a little bit, like, the pulling Doc Ock into Shang-Chi, how many times was that just like, yes, okay, I'm doing this? But then now he's actually 8 power for each of his tentacles.
Yep.
Right? Octopus and tentacles, it works. There you go. And later that month, they did try to nerf Erisham.
Gosh.
But it didn't matter. We'll talk about why. Because he shuffled 12 cards, he got +1 max energy the whole game. 15 cards and then +1 max energy. And it didn't matter because it just made you feel worse.
Yep.
There's no way they have the Shang-Chi. There's no way they have the block. There's no. Every time.
They had it every time.
Every damn time. Man-Thing got some love, going to a 4/5. From a 4/5 to a 4/7. Nocturne, as much as I didn't like it, I knew she needed. She was the best 3-cost card at the time.
Yep.
Taking a big hit right there. We also saw Blob reduce the max power of what he can do again. I think he went to 13 power there. War Machine also got some extra power here, as well as Cassandra Nova. What is it? Actually, no, sorry, maybe not War Machine. My apologies on that one. But
Apocalypse got buffed back again.
No, actually, what was it? Mind Stone got buffed. An Angel got buffed. Thena got nerfed. Sandman also lost a little bit of power. And Cassandra Nova got a little bit of power hit because too many people were playing her. Because Luke Cage is too good of a card, and Erisham was too good of a card. But again, they, like you said earlier, they made the change to Loki where they made him a 3/5 where you replace your deck with your opponent's starting deck at -1 cost into it, and then you also get to draw a card at a 3/5. It just it made Erisham even worse.
Yep.
Because you just put Loki in there and you just Loki and you're good. And then Loki got nerfed at the end of the month where Loki got to a, what is it? It was nerf. It didn't feel like it at the time. We like looking at the other side now, I think it is a nerf, but then it didn't feel good.
No.
Because then it turned into a turn 1 Loki. Because Loki got a 2/2, replace your deck with your opponent's starting deck at a -1 cost.
Yeah, it was just another feels bad moment for the Lokester, and then a major feels bad for the homie Beast going from a 2/2 to a 3/5. But you know who took the blunt of this OTA way worse than Beast or Loki? Taskmaster going from a 5-0 to a 6-0. My boy Taskmaster caught a freaking stray. Rightfully so. I get it. But
yes. So they did this change because they're like, okay, listen, there's a card coming out that's gonna make Taskmaster broken. We could let y'all play it, but we think it's gonna hurt the meta too much. We're not doing that.
But Airshim's okay.
I don't know. Whatever. It also felt like Darkhawk was also annoying if you weren't playing Airshim.
Yes.
And so I remember the joke. I remember feeling the joke like, okay, Darkhawk's the problem. Let's nerf Beast. And it felt like that was a legitimate conversation. And whatever. It also had one of the cooler changes that we've seen. Atuma got to be, what was it? Atuma, remember him? 410. After this turn, destroy Atuma if there's another card here. No longer, because after the turn, you destroy a weaker card than him here. Such a cool change.
Really great change. New mechanic.
Yeah. Destroyer got changed to be from a 6/6 that destroyed all your cards to being a 6/14 that destroyed your cards at other locations. And Copycat stole the text of a card and changed it to being a copy text of a card. We also OTAs other than Taskmaster and like Beast and stuff. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
Deadpool's League was not.
No.
The first league and pretty much all versions of the league. Remember I've talked about the chores. This is just the chores. It's just more and more chores that they gave you. And it also turned into a thing where like, because again, at first, Proving Grounds, what you were allowed to play in Proving Grounds. You just played 10, 20 rounds in Proving Grounds where you just never snap, you retreat turn one, retreat turn one, retreat turn one, retreat turn one, and you get so many points. That's it. Because you always get more points than you lose whenever if you win, you get more points than when you lose. Adversely, whatever. And so they had to give compensation. Everyone got all the exclusive emote or whatever. Now everyone has that stupid Deadpool emote. One of the reasons that really make me hate emotes in this game. And a couple other cool things at least happened. We started yapping, Tucker.
We did start yapping
in August. Remember that one? That was a fun time. And also, I didn't go to it, but SnapCon also occurred.
And Snapchat was amazing. Got to hang out with a bunch of amazing Marvel Snap content creators and just Marvel Snap members in the community. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, really cool. We also then saw, in terms of just actual Marvel Snap stuff, not just for ourselves, they did a patch where they're like, listen, these locations no one likes. It kind of just felt like the getting rid of the scum, and we were all like, oh yeah, it's cool. I build a new deck, and that's when I get District decks. I build a new deck, that's when I get Weird World. Whatever. I get, and they're like, no, you're right. You know what? These are scummy. And they removed Lamentus 1, which used to draw 3 cards and destroy the rest of your deck. The Peak, which swapped the power and cost of all the cards in your hand. District X, which swapped your deck out for 12 random cards. And then redesigned Sandbar, who made it so I don't think you could only... Was it Sandbar was added at one point where you could only play cards with no abilities there?
Yes,
that's what it
or
was
it was you can only move cards to this location.
No, I don't think we've ever had a location with that text, I would say.
Okay.
Because I remember that came out the same month as as Jeff came out, so Jeff was meant to be an answer there. But only cards with no abilities could be played there, which sucked. They redesigned that, and made it the current thing that's an Airshim counter, which was joyous to everyone's ears. And Weird World also let you draw only 2 cards from your opponent's deck, which actually was like, oh,
yep,
okay,
way better.
So there were good changes, but like I said, chores started building up, Tucker, and they really started building up. I felt that most when I got my weekend missions of Symbiote Spider-Man.
Yeah, this card was a major feels bad. First week, you're like, yo, Activate is out. Symbiote Spider-Man is here. We get to do some cool stuff. And then it was, this is actually just really boring. It's very predictable, and this card's not fun.
Yeah, it's just like, and this was conversation because this was the month that introduced Activates. Activates didn't get added until like halfway through the month, so we pretty much just had Symbiote Spider-Man for a while. Yep. I think eventually we got Aranya and Scarlet Spider at the end of it, but like, God, I think it's a playable card now. It's just not good.
Yes.
We at least had some other really good cards, and I think I've only gotten Symbiote Spider-Man got buffed later on, but Silver Sable came out that month, as well as Madam Web, Aranya, and Scarlet Spider. in general, I think the other cards were mostly fine. Silver Table got nerfed later on. We'll hit that when we get there. We also have Brooklyn Bridge. You can't play cards 2 locations here, 2 turns in a row here. I was really worried with this location, considering like just like the last month they removed all the annoying locations. I'm like, okay, cool, we're getting another Milano. We're getting another. What is it? But it was fine. It was chill and it was cool. And also we had Otto's Lab come out that month as well. It was fun. There was something that happened that we didn't really talk about or notice till later on.
Yeah.
We'll save that as we talk about the balance changes, because again, Sandman was still annoying. And mainly in Airship, but so they nerfed him from a 5/6 where each player can only play 1 card to a 5/7 where next turn cards cost 1 additional power,
which is more
Pretty cool
reasonable.
stuff.
Actually, like was not a bad idea at all.
It's such a great change. Same OTA. They what is it? They buffed Arrow to a 5/10. War Machine turned from an on reveal to an ongoing. Same stats, which was a bit of a mistake, but okay.
Yeah, this card went.
It's still cool.
Crazy
Still cool.
good now.
Yeah, and then Agatha Harkness, out of nowhere, just because everyone was like, "Oh, this is because people are like bot farming." They said that it isn't. It's just because they like the show and they want her to get played more. And so she used to control your entire game. Now she only controls it on even turns.
Yep.
So much cool stuff there. And then later on in the month, we finally had the patch that introduced activating abilities on 2 other cards. The Black Swan got to be from a 3/5 on reveal to a 2/2 on reveal, same ability. And the Hela came back, Tucker.
Yeah, Hela coming back was a freaking menace, because it was like, oh well, Hela has the -2 power, so like, you know, they're not gonna really play any Hela. They're having to play Luke Cage in it, and they're like, they weren't running it and Luke Cage in it already. You know, there's no issues here, and everyone's like, we were already running Luke Cage and Hela. Thank you so much for this, Hellcow. I appreciate you.
Hellcow going from the on reveal to an activate, discarding 2 cards. Play 3 cards, and your opponent has like 50 power at the end of the game. You're like, okay, cool. All right, it's fine. Swordmaster got to be discarded only odd cost cards, though. That was cool.
It was okay. I mean, Swordmaster's still just interesting,
Not good.
But yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of the month, we saw another OTA where they were like, oh, sorry about that. Sorry about the Hela buff. Here, she gives them even less power now, but we're going to give her more. Like you said, Luke Cage was already running the deck.
Yeah, that just does not make sense.
But they were expecting Symbiote Spider-Man to really like work with the 2 other cards that got buffed in an OTA at the end of the month, Galactus and Black Panther. And it didn't matter.
It's just so predictable.
Each of those cards an additional point of power.
Yeah.
And also, this was a really heavy clog time. So Symbiote Spider-Man didn't matter.
No.
It was so difficult to keep your lane clean. It was nigh impossible. But there was a lot of. Whereas I feel like it just kind of was like the cards sucked. The cards just didn't feel like really exciting. Didn't feel super crazy. Then the October season came around with Agent Venom.
Which that is where I think the floodgates kind of opened a little bit, because everyone was playing sort of the same stuff up until this season. But Agent Venom reopened the door with a lot of these mid-range decks, which, of course, kind of had some variety. Of course, some of them were just the same, whether it was the Darkhawk or it was the Claw package, but it just felt like a different change of pace than what you've been playing that entire time. And this season kind of opened the door for a bunch of new kind of decks. We had Scream, which, I mean, maybe not new, but it buffed a lot of these decks that were kind of flying under, which, like, Scream, having some of this anti-move tech was great. Misery, whether you're playing Mill, whether you're playing Black Widow Toxic, Darkhawk shenanigans, which that was a whole thing, or Thanos. There were some cool things with Misery and Thanos. Scorn, which was needed for discard to really get it back up to be relevant in the meta, because, you know, it still was relevant, but like this really put it over the top, giving it another card besides Apocalypse to be able to get a buff. Agony was just a bad card at that moment. It just didn't feel like it was in the right spot. Now it kind of feels like it's a more playable card. You're seeing it a lot more with Hand Pump. You're going to see it maybe with Lasher and stuff too. And then we also got Anti-Venom, which everyone was like, don't get this card. Anti-Venom is going to be a scam. It's going to be the worst. But do believers out there that really stuck around after day one are like, wait, this card is actually phenomenal. Kudos to you, because this card is actually really, really good.
It's the same thing I've said before. It's the problem. It's Luke Cage being too good. That's why Anti-Venom was okay. Because the second you have Luke Cage, it doesn't matter. You just have a free card.
Yep.
So good. It is insane value. It's wild. But what is it? But that's part of the reason why we saw a lot of this stuff change. I think that's why we saw and we also saw, I think, 3 different cards this month got buffed. Not to like preview to the balance changes. Scream got some love whenever some move changes happen. We'll talk about. Misery got buffed like a OTA following, and they buffed Anti-Venom a day or 2 before release.
Yep.
Because people weren't excited by him. Each of them getting an extra point of power. It's wild to me. We also had Feast and Our Lady of Saints come out and get locations. Again, fine locations. We also then saw, the development roadmap. Which was... This one, I think, was probably the best one they did.
Yes.
Because every single thing they talked about, I think we basically have, other than I think we're getting them in the next month or 2. And that's it. They said, coming soon, we're going to have High Voltage, the Collector's Vault, Anniversary Celebration, and the second version of Deadpool's Diner. And in development, Character Mastery, Super Premium Season Pass, even if whatever. Album Preview and Wish List, and a new limited time game mode. I don't think we've seen anything on that part either, though, yet, maybe?
No, we've not seen the new limited time yet.
Yeah. So, in general, though, like, the majority of this stuff, we're not 6 months in. I think we have almost everything except for one thing shown in there. It's pretty fun. I think a lot of that stuff, again, High Voltage was pretty cool to see. Talked about, it was cool to see a lot of these informations, a lot of this stuff happening. Talked about what they wanted to do with draft mode. We got to see the previews of the cosmetics and such. It was, in general, pretty interesting. And they fixed so there was something from last month that we didn't talk about. The split debacle.
Goodness gracious.
All right, I have the hottest of takes.
Okay.
Because here's what happened with the split debacle. The split debacle, whatever you want us to call it. The split debacle was the fact that we were told splits were at 10% for a gold, 10% for ink, and 10% for 10% to get a crackle effect on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively, splits. However, they were actually closer to like 25% as people found out based on other information. The September patch started adding groundwork for masteries and such with other versions of splits, and that accidentally lowered the split rates back to what they said they actually were. However, they lowered the split rates without any conversation about that. And it turned into this big conversation about like, hey, you've just nerfed splits the whole time. Yep. I remember, I think we talked about like God splits. I think I've, in the same period of God splits from beforehand and after, the amount of times I could get like an ink/gold with a crackle, I had 6 during this period of time. And then beforehand, I think in the same amount of splits, I want to say I had 12 or 15. It was just like such a big amount. And I hated it. At the same time, if they announced it, I wouldn't have had any issue with this.
Really? I mean, I think that's the main thing is they needed just to tell us it had happened and that they were laying the groundwork for mastery, and there was just that lack of communication.
Yeah, and that's just what, like, it made it feel so rough. But the patch coming out in October did increase those split rates. It gave us the Collector's Vault, which was interesting, and it took a while until we got everything from the split rates. Like a split miss is what we talked about. But at first, we got a Rainbow Cosmic Border and a exclusive Magneto X-Men 97 variant, plus those increased rates which were over the top of what we were told before. All that stuff happened with that patch. If I'm not mistaken. I think I'm correct in there.
Yes, you did.
But yeah. That's not the end of that part. We're still not at the end of that yet. But going into the other balance changes, Kingpin, Fist Tower, and Scream no longer affect unrevealed cards. So Scream got a point of power for that. Hellcow only discards 1 card.
Yep.
Widow's Kiss. God, I loved this Widow's Kiss change. So Widow's Kiss originally with White Widow was just such an impressive card. One of the reasons why Clog was so good. 0/0 card that has an ongoing. It's -3 power if the location's not full. Changing it to a 0 -4 and destroys this card as soon as location's full. Great changes. As well, we also saw Grandmaster, Hulkling, and Viper gain/lose point of power. The biggest one, Zabu came back.
Zabu came back as a freaking very viable card. Like actually it went
took a
from
bit.
where he had died at a 2/3 to a 1/2 where 4 cost got -1 cost for the rest of the game opposed to just the next turn.
Yeah, and that it's good stuff. I was happy to see it. I said it wasn't good at first. I have eaten my words at this point. I think the card's fine. It's a good card now. I don't think it's broken. Hopefully not. I think it's fine. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good OTA.
Yes.
Then you know what they did the next OTA, Tucker? They killed. That was the nail in the coffin of Cerebro, as Storm became a 4-cost 5-power card.
Yeah, that was because of Cerebro. That's why she got changed.
Yeah, Cerebro's just too dang good. No, it was the War Machine you play on turn. It was just the easy line. Turn 3, you play turn 3 Storm. Turn 4 War Machine. Turn 5 Legion. That location. And they said it wasn't broken. It wasn't too powerful. It was just not fun.
The fun police.
And
we're getting a trend
they
here.
just want. It's crazy, but they wanted people to have fun in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
And they took away our splits.
I say that. I say that, and then they buffed Shadow King for some dumb reason.
Yep. They said he's not getting enough play rate, so we want to actually increase his power.
We want more Shang-Chi's. I don't know. Rock Slide also got increased in power as some other notable things. Claw lost a point of power that he was giving to a +7 to the right location. Typhoid Mary was a really cool change where the other cards at her location now got -1 rather than in general all the cards.
Set up for certain.
We also had High Voltage come out that month with who was it? Was it
Agony.
Agony. High Voltage was such a breath of fresh air with everything else going on.
Make it a permanent mode, please.
Again, I'm saying it now as we're currently in High Voltage right now. That button to the right of the play button needs to be, let me choose the game mode. I don't care what rank I am on the ladder. Stop putting on the desktop version. Stop putting all the game modes in this big banner where you're just going to keep putting more and more up there. No, let me just choose the game mode right here. Give me an info button for that stuff. For what is it? Redeeming the extra rewards, the Conquest Shop, the ladder rewards, whatever else they have in Deadpool's Diner. I don't know. Anyway, rant aside, because we've gone for a while today, Tucker. We get to November. We get to last month. So we're catching up quickly because that was the month of Surtur. Season Pass card came out also with Fenris Wolf, Frigga, Malekith, and Gore. And King of Truth, a Diner card who went to Series 4 immediately following. This was a pretty solid month of card releases, I think.
Yeah,
And
overall, it was pretty, adding to some pre-existing archetypes. Nothing, game-changing, as much as I would say Gore is game-changing.
Surtur and Gore were game-changing, I think, actually. I mean, there was a pretty good Surtur slam list I saw going around. I don't know. It got some people to, top 6 or something like that.
Maybe. But, Surtur overall, actually having value for Scar months and months and months and months later, you know?
Scar was a good card. It needed more and more. It just needed more cards. And Surtur literally was that card. This is one of those things that felt like a flub, though. You didn't put Scar in the Surtur month. You put him. He was in Black Ashes the previous month for some reason, Tucker.
Yes.
I don't know. Put him in. He should have been the very first Black Ash that month.
100%, and people would have spent the tokens, whatever,
100%.
anything to get him.
There are some people who don't know about the data mines and didn't know that they needed to get this card.
Yep.
Yeah. We also had Valhalla, a location that triggered all the on reveals after turn 4 again, and you show that after each turn, gave all cards at another location +1 power, which was pretty cool. We also saw Deadpool's Diner return and a big announcement about the compensation for boosters and credits, where they finally nailed it in terms of no one in the community was mad. Where they did this whole tier-based system, the whole thing of figuring out how much everyone got back. You and I both got 15,000 credits and did some pretty sick splits. And this was in the middle of Splitsmiths, the increased split time, right? So pretty good times, pretty great, pretty good changes in there. And then we also they limited the amount of balance changes for last month and this current month, December. But in there, it was just a massive OTA where it felt like every single team was like, oh, sick. Like, they started us off with Agent Venom, where he was a 2/4, setting the whole deck's power to 4 power. And then changing him to a 2/5, where he set deck's power to 3 power.
Yep. Way better. But still, I don't know why he has 5 power to this day.
I actually think it's fine. It's such a difficult thing for the 3 power. It hurts. Like, so many of those decks were running Claw. Like, and what is it? And I feel like you could run other things that were easier. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. I don't know. But, or like, you couldn't do it inside of Bounceless as easily. You can do it inside of Destroy List as easily. It made it really narrow, and you have to use an Agent Venom style list. He's not doing well anymore. He's kind of just okay. He's not broken. He's not crazy. He's not the best deck. Even though in that month there were a lot of options, he was still best deck. We also then saw the quickest nerf to a card we had ever seen. Where Surtur immediately went to a 3/4 from a 3/5. Aw, hi, kitty. And unfortunately, Scar lost a little bit of power. Silver Sable lost a point of power. Shadow King lost a point of power. And we also saw both Crystal and Winter Soldier, a couple cards who didn't really change. Winter Soldier's slightly more playable.
Oh
but
my
like Crystal,
gosh.
Yeah. Both those got a point of power. Black Widow really highlighted how it was just hated because there was the Grandmaster Phoenix Force Misery deck that just shut your opponent down. Again, just anti-fun decks. Turned her into an activate. Valentina got, what is it? Valentina, the card that she generates, got an extra point of power.
Yep.
And they started giving Thanos some love, where now he is no longer counting towards your starting hand.
Yeah, no, Thanos actually got a major buff here, and you started to see Thanos get more play, and this is when you started to see Thanos Arishem take over the meta by storm, where everyone and their mother was playing it, and it was just an incredible list. Even though you're adding so many cards to your hand, to your deck, Darkhawk, it just doesn't matter. You know, I'm just gonna have all this extra energy right now. I'm just gonna win, and it was just a pain.
Yeah. It was a pain. It was most certainly a pain. But thankfully, next month there was something coming that would completely distract Tucker entirely.
Yep.
Marvel Rivals was coming out. In addition to the Marvel Rivals season we're currently in, we're just now getting into the last week of it. Because Galacta is a season pass card. You have Luna Snow, Penny Parker, Doom 2099, Bruce Banner, and coming out today, Tucker, Rocket and Groot as our Series 5 cards, and then Lasher's in High Voltage. I don't think either of us have unlocked him as of yet.
Not yet, no.
But he will be going into Series 4, I think in a week, not immediately as soon as it ends, just due to some sort of bug they told us about. Spider Island got added this month, and we were going to have Tokyo 2099 added to the game, but they said they did not want Tokyo 2099 added as it would just shut down the entire archetype. They literally said like, hey, we just needed a location to fill the spot in that didn't have any VFX, not something difficult. We're throwing this in, and then they're like, okay, maybe this location isn't great. Sorry. So we're not even in Tokyo 2099 anymore.
Nope.
Which I'm hoping we'll get some other changes to that, but it is. If it was really rare, I don't think I still would have minded it. But again, I think it just has to be a thing where it's just like, there has to be something with it. I was thinking like, what if it's just like, if this location isn't full, you can't discard cards. Some decks is ruins. For destroy or for discard, you have to fill a location and then you discard your cards.
I wouldn't be mind. Like, I wanted to not be like entire game you can't discard cards, because like even with destroy, like there's locations that lock down whatever destroy can do, but there's other places. Location. Yeah, it's that location. That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't limit your entire game, kind of thing. Yeah.
But that's why I like the at least like a filling thing, because then it's not if it's a turn that it comes out, that's turn 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or maybe randomly based off of other locations, but still. But that's why if you make it so if this location's full, you can't do it. You invest into as other locations, it's ruins, and that's fine. For discard, it's not great. I can't use my Gambit. Isn't gonna sit there, but at least I can put my Morbius down early. I can throw my Dracula in here, and then. All right, I can throw MODOK as the final card, and that's going to just wipe everything else. Or it's just stuff like that, where it's just like, give us something, at least some more options there, but whatever. Other than that, though, we are currently in the middle of High Voltage right now, which we are playing for Lasher. I've been enjoying that personally.
I love High Voltage. It's literally like, I wish it was a permanent game mode. Like, I would play this way more than I would play any other game mode. I would hit Infinite and just play High Voltage to just do missions at this point.
as soon as you know what, if they're not going to fix Conquest at this point, I'm kind of agreeing with you. Yeah, whatever. We also got a very lackluster announcement about series drops. We'll talk about that in a second. I shouldn't have brought that up, but I did. Patch apparently capped the season pass level at 11 because there were people like bot farming and whatever. Affinity split rates were returned back to normal. And also Black Crackle got buffed, and they didn't announce that. We had a bunch of balance changes. Erisham finally in a place where it looks like he's actually hit pretty heavily down. And Typhoid Mary, a bunch of other cards got changed. We just talked about that like a week or two ago. We don't need to break all this stuff down because the card acquisition stuff is really where we're kind of at. And they said, and we got some of really weak series drops. Festus, Grandmaster Pixie, Beta Ray Bill, X23, Supergiant, Sasquatch, Valentina, and Iron Lad all drop into Series 4. And then Series 3 got Snowguard, Kitty Pryde, and Jean Grey.
It's just like, why was Kitty Pryde not already Series 3? Snowguard, especially after the Loki changes. Jean Grey should have been there last year as a freaking Series 3. And then some of these cards should have just released as Series 4. I think more people would have picked up Pixie if Pixie was Series 4. It'd be a good card to kind of just like mess around with, kind of learn the game. X23, I was surprised to actually drop to Series 4.
Yeah, we talked about that. We didn't think that enabling cards would. But I'm happy with it, 100%. Still didn't see Nico, but I'm still happy with this. We got still at least some good stuff here. But yeah, we have a lot of other cool buffs here. Typhoid Mary hit, hurts a little bit more at her location because she was just too good. Black Widow they continually hate, and Shuri is dead. Cerebro is still dead. And unfortunately Hammer Bros still really aren't that good, but they're still fun. But we're gonna save the 2025 wish list for next week. We're very long today because guess what? We just talked about a full 366. God, I know numbers. 366 days of Marvel Snap, Tucker. We just talked about all those. But looking at least at this at the last 30 days, right? December 1st to the 31st. These cards have kind of been mid, and I think Rocket and Groot will hopefully save us.
Hopefully. I mean, Galacta was cool, and I like the mechanic, the +3 to a different location. Then Galacta's cool, because, Elsa was also really fun, and it kind of, just opened up some opportunities there. Doom 2099 is good. We expected this card to be good. It's just so incredibly boring. That's my gosh.
We said it. It is going to be a boring card that is good.
Yes.
I think it's at least good, and that's fine. It's just like that hurt more of my Marvel Snap experience than anything else because of also just the inbredness the meta became. Because it was like, okay, everyone's running Doom 2099. I'll just run Super Crow as well. And I'm also running Rogue, and I'm also running like Enchant, it just for this little bit. Which was just such a so weird.
Yeah,
they've said very publicly they're not going to change that stuff. They're not going to change the way they do those releases. But I don't know. I still don't like it a lot. Penny Parker, at least, I think is
okay.
Fine.
Yeah, she does her stuff well. I liked her in Phoenix Force and Awaken. It makes sense, so you can have something you can play on Curve, but nothing crazy about her at all either.
I think Bruce Banner and Luna Snow are best in High Evolutionary, and High Evolutionary died.
Yeah.
A while ago. And I think I've had a lot of fun with Bruce Banner. I've had positive win rate with him technically inside of High Evolutionary. I'm using Luna Snow as well, but it's also showing how narrow the deck has become. I've cut Cyclops from the list.
Really?
Yeah, because Luke Cage is a problem. And I'm using some people are running Luke Cage. It doesn't matter. So I'm using I'm using Luna Snow, Misty Knight, Bruce Banner as a better ramper than that. Yes, it's still random in there. I feel like there's a world where Bruce Banner could still be cheaper. I don't know.
Like a 1 cost, I think is what you said.
I kind of could see. I could see him as a 1-1-1-0. I think
it makes sense because he's such a weakling by himself. Why not make him susceptible to a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I kind of love it still. I don't know. I would like that. And also, Luna Snow just isn't still even amazing even in that deck. But it just goes to a situation where it's giving your opponent's energy is so good.
Yes.
And we haven't really seen a lot of Lasher, but at least from what's been played, because maybe it hasn't been discovered as of yet, because it's very low game volume.
Mm-hmm.
He has negative cube rate, at least.
People might be trying the wrong things.
Well, asterisk on Lasher.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be good, though. I'm going to tell you that.
Okay.
I think Galacta might be good. Galacta might be a really good card, potentially. She's the only other... Her and Rocket and Groot, I think, are going to be the best cards of this month.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking at least with... what is it? With... I feel like she could lose point of power, by the way. Just like base point of power. I don't know.
Galacta like a 4/5, you think?
Yeah. But Rocket and Groot... You want to tell everyone about Rocket and Groot and why everyone's wrong about this card.
Rocket and Groot is a 3/3. You can move this once, period. After your opponent plays a card here, steal 1 power from it.
And that's every, like, what is it? That is every single time your opponent plays a card. It's not one time. It's every single time your opponent plays a card there. And that is also specified. Ben Brode literally says in the announcement video, steal power. Rocket and Groot steal power from other cards. Cards, plural. So it's not a once per time thing. This is they will be stealing repeatedly from cards. This is gonna be an interesting card. I feel it's gonna be good. I don't even think the stealing is the best part of this card, Tucker. I think it's the movement.
Being able to move it wherever, because it's like, am I gonna be able to play this card safely or not? Or yeah.
Every single other card that just lets you move is good. It is simply just a good card. The movement ability is really good. Nocturne was really good at first. We also saw the similar stuff. What is it? Not crazy as much, but still. Madam Web's just a good card because movement is so rare in this game, so difficult, so niche, that this is going to be, I think, really solid. This is, I think, just again, Luke Cage classic, but Ajax lists, you put this in a lane, and if you're struggling in a lane you can't get to, they just go there at the end of the game. You know, moving there till the end, chilling out. It's so good.
No, I think that's a really smart play. Even like this at the end of the game, like if you just have priority and you can see where your opponent's going to play a card or like kind of predict, like this turns into a potential 3/5 transactionally, which is nice. Even 3/3, it's okay. But of course, you're going to be wanting to play this out early to have that move function.
Yeah, no, you want to play this as soon as possible. I will say the longer and longer this waits, the worse and worse this card gets.
Yes.
This is definitely one of those that's like, it just gets so much worse the longer you have to wait to play this card. But I can't imagine this card not being good. But it's weird. But I feel like part of the stuff that's kind of like felt middling maybe a bit about Snap this season is just that the rest of the cards have been very middling. They're just not crazy good. I think they're meant for archetypes, meant to be buffs to archetypes that still just aren't good. We're not, Haivo isn't playable. We're still not seeing anything with, what is it? Like, Doom 29, yes, it's its own specific thing. It's still not a great card. Galacta's doing specific things here and there. And then what is it? And Penny Parker is just such a narrow card.
Yep.
Also, the thing being 3 cost whenever it's played. Again, just using it for the movement is still pretty good, but I don't know. I'm hoping this is good. I'm hoping that we feel like we're going to get some content here. Because especially also looking at the end, or at the beginning of the rewind to the end of that rewind. There's such a big difference. It felt so much more stuff, so much more exciting, so much meaningful, cool things in the first half of 2024 for that rewind. And then as we got to the second half, it felt so lackluster. Because I feel like we're feeling similarly at the end of 2023, where we were lackluster on the game. A lot of stuff was like getting less and less of it. We didn't have actually like TCG competition in there, but it just felt. I think the game just was struggling more.
This game in the holiday season just always is at its lowest point because, you know, everyone's getting their break, which we love that they're getting their break. I just wish they set themselves up to have better opportunities to be better during their break.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. Give us some more of this stuff. Like, give us that cool patch in December. Like, okay, cool. You have it ready in November. Wait a moment. Just give us a moment. Let us give us some cool content to mess with over the holidays. Because guess what? I had really long drives, like on Christmas and stuff, and just over this season. I spent my time drafting the outline for our too long of episode. It needs to be cut in. I think they just need to work on the way those timings are going through.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, for sure, for what it's worth, I definitely think for sure everyone should be following and subscribe to this channel, both on Twitch and YouTube. YouTube.com/@Tucker, Twitch.tv/Tucker, Twitch or Tick. Not actually, yes, you're on TikTok and on Twitter, and Kitty's is there. Subscribe to him, follow him, do all the things, like, comment, TUCCRR. Let us know, what were your favorite cards 2024? What was the worst cards 2024? What was the best stuff? What was the meta you hated the most? Let us know when you think of the 2024 year in Snap, what do you think about? Give us that stuff, and maybe tell us what stuff you want in the 2025 wish list. Maybe we'll talk about some of those next episode, because we will be saving that for then. Sorry, this was too long of an episode.
But you guys also need to be following notmydance on every single platform.
No,
yeah, but we're saying it again. We're saying it again. Follow notmydance on YouTube. Follow him on Twitch. Follow him on Twitter. And every single time you do that, a cat will come to your house and give you love. All right? But I need you guys to do that right now. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Enjoy your New Year's. Enjoy this Rockin' and Groot. We love you guys, and laters.
Are you giving them all cats?
No, they're just going to spawn.